We had not really planned our Nepal trip. In fact, we wanted to backpack and just go with the flow. We had only booked like one hotel that we really wanted to visit, and apart from that, we had a surface level planning of what we wanted to do. But even that plan didn't really happen, and somehow everything unfolded exactly the way it was meant to be. Looking back, I feel like everything happened in the most beautiful way possible. Really, Nepal feeling Dadana, divine. I don't know if I'll be able to explain it properly, but I will give it a try. Hi, this is Ashwita. Welcome back to my channel. So, namak early morning flight ittundu from Bangalore to Kathmandu. So, nama dada plan mantita for that day is, of course, to look around. I mean, go around Kathmandu, explore a few places in Kathmandu, and then, of course, Pashupatinath was on our list. We wanted to go to that temple. We wanted to experience Pashupatinath, and like as usual, travel plans never go as per our plans, and it same thing happened. Our flight got delayed for like more than 2-3 hours. It got delayed, and then nama when we actually reached Kathmandu, it was evening. Of course, we could not go to the other places which we were thinking we should be going, but that's okay. But we did not want to miss Pashupatinath at all. So Enkul reach Anagani, like I told, it was evening, and then nama we booked a local hotel there, and then we asked them if we can still go to Pashupatinath. It was walkable from there. So ನಮ್ಮ ಗೂಗಲ್ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಾಗೆಲ್ಲ ಎಂಕ್ಲೆ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗೊಂದಿಜ್ಜಂಡು ಒಂಚಿಡ್ದು ಪೋಯಾರೆ ಹೋಟೆಲ್ ಇರ್ದು ಬಿದೆ ಬರ್ತದೆ ಇವಾಗ ಎಂಕ್ಲೆ ಆಟೋಸ್ ಆರ್ ಎನಿ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮೋಡ್ ವಿ couldn't really find anything, so we started walking, and when like we didn't know where we were going, but we were walking. We of course knew that the main temple was closed, that darshana close ಆದಿಪ್ಪುಂಡು, but ಆರತಿ ಉಂಡು ಈವ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಎಂಕ್ಲೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿತ್ತು. So we just walked, and when we reached to the exact right place where the aarti was happening. It was almost like as if we arrived at the exact right time. ಭಜನೆ ಆವೊಂದಿತ್ತುಂಡು, ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ಆವೊಂದಿತ್ತುಂಡು, ಫುಲ್ ಜನ ಇತ್ತೇರು, ಪೂರೆಲ್ಲೊಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಭಜನೆ ಬನ್ನೊಂದು. That was very beautiful evening aarti. And but we noticed something. River the R side did bhajane arati and everything. River the E side did it was cremations happening. Yeah, like puna putta ondittere, last rites ondittundu. And this is where Pashupatinath became much more than just another temple visit for us, because for a few weeks before our temple this Nepal trip, I've been thinking about death a lot. I've been telling my husband also, who is now my husband, then my fiance. I was telling him I've been thinking about death lately, and all of that. I was anxious for some reason. I was just keeping on thinking about death. I don't usually have travel anxiety, okay. I'm quite comfortable traveling and flying. Ingala problem je, ink masyan apura travel anxiety ji. But the day before we left to Nepal, I actually had a lot of anxiety about the flights and about traveling, which was unlikely me. I am generally not like that. But in car ni dumbinani ratre ink nidrala barondijjandu. I was like a lot of tadana fear itti, like I couldn't really understand, okay, why. Then when we arrived here, suddenly I was sitting beside that Bagamati river. ಆ ಸೈಡೆಡ್ ಆರತಿ ಆವೊಂದುಂಡು, ಈ ಸೈಡೆಡ್ ಪುನಃ ಪೊತ್ತ ಆವೊಂದುಲ್ಲೆರ್, people's last rites happening. It was really overwhelming for me. ಇಂಕ್ಲ ಆರತಿ ಆದ ಸುಮಾರು ಪುರ್ತು ಅಲ್ಪ ಕುಲ್ಯ, ಲೈಕ್ ಈ ಸೈಡ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ವೆ ಕ್ರೈಯಿಂಗ್, ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲೀಸ್ ವೆ ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮಿಂಗ್ ದ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ರೈಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ದೇ ಲವ್, ಸಮ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ವೆ ಶೇವಿಂಗ್ their head, and we were just sitting there watching everything. Yang kulon puratunaga, I don't know, I have not experienced something like that before. I can see, aarti that side, the side inch pura inko onji betine feeling avundite. See, my husband, no, he is a very calm and composed person. He's not someone who expresses every emotion outwardly. I am a little different in feeling the emotions, okay. I was sitting there, I was crying. He was just sitting beside me quietly, taking everything in. He didn't tell him anything. He did not tell me, like, why you're crying, don't cry, don't think about it. He just let me sit there and feel whatever I was feeling. Because I was thinking, sometimes nama ಕೆಲವು ಜನ ತೊಟ್ಟಿಗೆ most of the life spend manfa, but when it comes to their last rites, we are not fortunate enough to be there. But then sometimes you end up sitting beside somebody else's last rites, like you don't even know that person, you don't even know their name, you don't even know their story, you don't even know where they are from, you don't know why. But in Kalbakuldu, it affected me so deeply that somebody else's body is there. I don't even know that person. But there was one body where I felt like I have some kind of connection with that person, and I was supposed to be there in that exact moment when thing feel on it. And I could not stop crying. I really can't explain why. Maybe for some reason I felt, this strange sense of connection. Like, I don't know. Maybe it was just simply the atmosphere of the place. Could be. Maybe it was because I had already been thinking about death for weeks, or maybe it was just my mind trying to make sense of something I was witnessing. I don't know, but that's genuinely how I felt. I remember thinking maybe death isn't the opposite of life. Maybe death is simply a part of life. And definitely, of course, I have not reached that kind of spirituality where I can say I accept everything that happens. Pande. I'm still human. I question a lot of things still. There are things I still, I'm still learning to accept. But that night, Pashupatinath somehow gave me a small answer to some of those questions. I feel it made me realize that we are all passing through this life. We really don't really know how long we are here. We don't know what's going to happen next, and maybe all we can really do is experience the life that we have while we are still here. And then we just went around the temple. Temple premises it's not just a temple alpa. There are many things around, so I'm full suttu but mast jana iddande. It was very calm night. We went around. It was beautiful experience. But of course appaga security like jande because it was late in the night, so we went till the temple gate, I mean the main shrine entrance dalpamuta, but it was closed, of course. But of course, even if we though experienced all of this, namak konchu incomplete feel and because Pashupatinath tuyara tikkijar of alpapura tuya we experienced, but I want you void feel apunate that nama tuija ulai poija darshana iji pand. So we thought, okay, ini podai boka elle kande bira barba next day enkleg elle we had flight to Pokhara. ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ ಅರೌಂಡ್ ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ ಮಾಡಿ 12 o'clock ಆಗಿತ್ತು. ಸೊ ಎಂಕ್ಲೆಂಚಿನ ಕಾಂಡೆ ಪಿರಾ ಬರ್ಕ ಪಶುಪತಿನಾಥ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ವಿ ರಿಯಲಿ ವಾಂಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಗೋ ಇನ್ಸೈಡ್ ದ ಟೆಂಪಲ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್. ಅಂಚ ನಮ್ಮ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಡೇ ಕಾಂಡೆ ಪಿರಾ ಬೇಗ ಬತ್ತ ಪುಲ್ಯ ಕಾಂಡೆ ವಿ ಕೇಮ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಟು the temple, Pashupatinath temple. Of course, morning looked very different from night. Everything was bright and lot of people. It was crowded. It was crowded at this point. Temple was open, of course. And it was so crowded that at one point we were contemplating whether we should even go inside or just pidai the kai mugidu poya, because we could not afford to miss the flight also. Already namak book mantaditta flight Pokhara poyare. From there we wanted to actually go to Gandruk, but again the plans changed. That maybe some in the next video I will tell. But still poya ulai. Out of nowhere one security person comes to us and guides us forward, okay, and somehow despite of the crowd we ended up getting a really beautiful darshan, because nama alpardu our line ulai poda and then this person he just comes, it's like idhar and then uncle poya alpa namak they were at clean tojer and our hearts were full. Pashupatinathada linga is called Mukhalinga because ee linga faces undu panda naal direction de naal face plus onji invisible face which is looking upwards. So mulpa ain mone undu lingaku. Really can't remember how he looks at this point, but that moment I saw him, I think that's the thing with God. You just get a fraction of a second and then you just forget that figure of how it looks, but then you know the feeling aate. And then we were able to move through quickly, and it was just like everything aligned so perfectly. And after what had happened previous night, of all that feeling and all of that, finally getting to stand there and feel his presence, it felt really nice. Yeah, and then we both were like, okay, now it feels complete. And one thing I felt really beautiful about this temple is that there's one place inside the shrine that where animals like monkeys and dogs, birds could come and pick up offerings and just go eat. So it was really nice. There was something beautiful about that idea, especially because Pashupatinath means the lord of all animals, right? And there are a lot of several fascinating legends behind the name Pashupatinath. One story namak kenare tikkinal padada panda. It seems Shiva took the form of deer and wandered in the valley, Kathmandu valley, and he didn't want to go back. Then the other gods had to come convince him and take him back. So that's why, because of this connection with the animal, he's been worshipped as Pashupatinath. And the Panpere. Bokka Kurunji story that the Pandinda in this location, the Kamadenu, she would come and offer her milk in one particular place. Yeah. So then when people, dug up that place and they found the linga pandu one story into. And I feel like what Pashupatinath taught us was that life isn't always going to make sense. Seriously. Aren't always going to understand why certain things happen. We won't always have answers, but maybe we're not supposed to have all answers, right? Maybe we are just supposed to live, love, experience, and learn, and accept whatever comes our way, one day at a time, maybe. Yeah, and this trip was special for us because this was our first trip together as a couple. We were engaged back then. We were engaged at that point of time. We weren't married yet, and yeah, Enna Kandani is a big devotee of Lord Shiva. So I feel like looking back, our Nepal trip almost feels like it was all meant to happen. It was all Shiva's plan. Because Pashupatinath was only the beginning. We later visited Muktinath, Gupteshwar, and several other spiritual places. Like, it was our first trip, but we had some kind of spiritual enlightenment kind of a feeling in that entire place. Nepal itself feels so spiritual, and I think it was all meant to be there. It felt very divine. And maybe that's why, even after coming back, I kept thinking about that first night at Pashupatinath, about how worried I was about death before the trip, how I ended up sitting beside a river watching strangers say goodbye to their loved ones, about how I cried without even really knowing why. And then the very next morning, somehow getting the darshan we came for. I don't know if everything happens for a reason. I don't know if it was a God's plan. I don't know if it was simply a coincidence. But I know that when we walked away from Pashupatinath that morning, we felt peaceful. And sometimes I think that's enough. So yeah, that's it for today. नमस्ते, आज हम पशुपतिनाथ टेम्पल आए हैं. हमारा दर्शन हो गया है, अच्छा हुआ है. बाय.